Good morning, everybody, and welcome, as you can see, to the glorious Church of St. Editha in Tamworth. Lovely to see you, and thank you for joining us for our Bible talk for today. As I sit here, I'm surrounded by red, white, and blue. I've got flags, I've got bunting, various pictures of the Queen and so on to celebrate the Platinum Jubilee, her 70. We celebrate the 70 years of the Queen on the throne in Britain. Just to remind the people of Penn, to reassure you, there will be an evensong on Sunday night, at which they will be singing the anthem, which has been set especially for the Platinum Jubilee, and at the Flower Festival in a couple of weeks' time, there will be the theme is all about the Jubilee. So more at the Flower Festival in 2 or 3 weeks' time. But for now, welcome to the Bible Talk for today. Just before we say that, I want to give just a quick tribute, if I may, to the Queen, somebody I have never met and probably never will. But I want to say she's a remarkable person, and as well as being remarkable in terms of her longevity and so on, I think she's also remarkable because she's a woman of very, very profound Christian faith, and that's something which is clearly very, very important to her. And I mean, far be it for me to put words into her mouth, but I think two things in particular: that she's known the guidance and comfort of God throughout her life. She's somebody that prays, someone that goes to church every week. And for whom Christian faith is in a very simple way, is a very, very important part of her life, and that she knows God's guidance and God's help in all that she does. The other thing I think which is really important, and I think many, many rulers and prime ministers and so on across the world could do with hearing, is that however much people kowtow to her, however much she's your Majesty and so on, she's always known that she serves a God that's bigger than she is. And I think that's remarkable. It keeps her in check, that however much bowing and scraping she may get, she knows she serves a God who's bigger. So, Mom, congratulations to you. I don't suppose you're watching, but congratulations anyway. And, God bless you, God save you, and may God, so to speak, and may you reign over us for many years to come. But you've all come this morning to hear what the Bible has to say. We are in the letter of Hebrews, so I'm going to pick it up now. We're at chapter 10, picking it up from yesterday, and we're going to start reading at verse 26. Here goes. So Hebrews chapter 10, verses 26 to the end of the chapter. For if we go on sinning deliberately after receiving the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains a sacrifice for sins, but a fearful expectation of judgment and a fury of fire that will consume the adversaries. Anyone who set aside the law of Moses dies without mercy on the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. How much worse punishment do you think will be deserved by the one who has trampled underfoot the Son of God and has profaned the blood of the covenant by which he was sanctified and has outraged the Spirit of grace? For we know him who said, "Vengeance is mine, I will repay," and again, "The Lord will judge his people." It's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. But recall the former days, when you were enlightened, you endured a hard struggle with sufferings, sometimes being publicly exposed to reproach and affliction, and sometimes being partners with those so treated. For you had compassion on those in prison, and you joyfully accepted the plundering of your property, since you knew that you yourselves had a better possession and an abiding one. Therefore do not throw away such your confidence, which has great reward, for you have need of endurance, so that when you've done the will of God, you may receive what is promised. For yet a little while, and the coming one will come and will not delay. But my righteous one shall live by faith, and if he shrinks back, my soul has no pleasure in him. But we are not those who shrink back and are destroyed, but those who have faith and preserve their souls. And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So, just to remind you the context of what's going on here, the letter to the Hebrews is written to people who are having a hard time in their Christian faith, and they are thinking about drifting away or going back to paganism or something else, and they're drifting or shrinking back, you might say. And various things in the last couple of chapters, we've heard various reasons saying why God is great and what Jesus has done is great. And again in this reading this morning, we have the writer telling us that we should not shrink back, and that we shouldn't come back from our faith, but we should keep the faith. And he basically gives 3 reasons. Firstly, it's a bit of a warning as to what happens if you don't. You know, if you do go back, there may be trouble ahead. You know, it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. And it's tough stuff, this one. It's been misunderstood over the years. There were various people who said you couldn't be forgiven after you'd been baptized. Hence, the Emperor Constantine was baptized on his deathbed because he thought you couldn't be forgiven of post-baptismal sin or something. That's nonsense. What the guy is really saying here is, you know, you've experienced grace. Don't go back. Don't go back. You know, you've experienced forgiveness. You wouldn't want to lose that, would you? And it's a bit of a stern warning here, you know, that if you do fall back, it's not good. You know, it's just a fearful thing to fall into the arms of a living God. And Jesus offers us forgiveness. You know, what happens if we turn our back on that? Do you really want to go back to sin again? It says elsewhere in the Bible, to go back to your sin is like a dog returning to its vomit. Love your phrase, that. And here it's quite a tough warning here from the writer, saying you've experienced forgiveness. You don't want to lose that. You know, you've experienced the way to God. You wouldn't want to turn your back on that. You know, God is great and God is mighty, and you've been given an opportunity here to experience his forgiveness and his grace and to know God well. Do you really want to go back on that? So I think there's a warning really here. And I suppose in a sense we don't like warnings, do we? But actually there's a bit of a warning to us too, really. You know, God is great. God is the living God. God is the maker of heaven and earth. And we've been given an opportunity in the Christian faith to be friends of his, to know him well, to have his forgiveness. But do we really want to turn our backs on that? Because that's not good if we do. That's the first thing. So the first thing is a warning. The second thing, he kind of appeals to the people he's writing to. He says, when you first found faith, you did really well. You know, when you first found faith, you had your problems then. You know, when you first found faith, you know, you experienced a hard time, and not just you, but people you were associated with, and you visited people in prison in their difficult time, and you even experienced having some of your property taken away, but you thought it was worth it. And, you know, you did so well, you know, you've come this far, don't give it up now. You know, so I think he's appealing here to the people he's writing to, you know. You've done so well in the past, you wouldn't want to turn your back on it now, would you? So that's another reason why. So two reasons why, first, we shouldn't give up on our faith. Firstly, because, you know, if we do, it has consequences. And he warns us, you know, having experienced forgiveness, do you want to lose that? And secondly, he's appealing to the people he's writing to. You know, in the past, you've done so well, you know. You put up with it then. What's different now? You know, don't lose it. Just keep on there now. But the third reason he does is he quotes the Bible. He quotes the Old Testament. And at this point, for the second time in 3 days, I think it is, he quotes, I want to talk about something I did a 6,000-word essay on. Because he quotes the book of Habakkuk in the Old Testament, a lovely little book, one of them called Minor Prophets, a guy called Habakkuk. And there's some superb bits in it, one of which is the last couple of verses. Just read those 4 or 5 verses of Habakkuk sometime if you get a minute. And there's also that lovely phrase, that the just shall live by faith. The context of Habakkuk is that Habakkuk is appealing to God because his people are having a hard time and they're struggling. A bit like you might say the people of Hebrews are in the book here. And God's response is to be patient, you know. He takes no pleasure in the one who shrinks back, but the righteous one shall live by faith. And I think that's why he quotes it now here, because, you know, as Habakkuk was having a hard time, so the people of Hebrews are having a hard time. And he's appealing to, like God did in the book of Habakkuk, to be patient, that God does not take pleasure in those who shrink back, but the righteous shall live by faith. Paul also quotes this word in Romans and in Galatians as well. But here it's like in the context of salvation by faith, by having faith in Jesus. But here I think it's a bit different. He's basically saying, don't hold back. Keep the faith. You will live by faith. You know, God takes no pleasure in those who shrink back, but those who live by faith shall live. And it's in our faith that we have life. And, you know, God will be with us. And in Habakkuk, he refers to somebody who will deliver them. And I think he's saying the same thing here. Our deliverance will come. But God takes no pleasure in those who shrink back, but those who are righteous shall live by faith. So he's saying to them today, keep the faith, keep living, keep believing, and keep living by your faith in Jesus. Keep trusting, keep believing, and your deliverance will be here. So, 3 reasons again why we need to keep the faith, which he gives the Hebrews. Firstly, he says, because there's no consequence if we don't. You know, there's a bit of a warning here. If you experience forgiveness the way to God, you wouldn't want to lose that, would you? Secondly, he says to the people, you've done so well in the past. Why turn back on it now? And thirdly, like the book of Habakkuk, you know, who are having a hard time too, God takes no pleasure in those who shrink back, but the righteous shall live by faith. And so much should they.